Welcome to episode number 37 of the CirclesOff, formerly podcast, but now vodcast, I guess.
Don't call it that.
I know, I like podcast way better. I'm not going to call it that.
It's a video podcast.
Video podcast. This is the first time that we're recording with video, which will be available on YouTube. To our very small following on YouTube right now, but hopefully looking to grow that.
Well, we haven't made the channel yet. We fired it up with a quick one, but this will be our first piece of content on YouTube, and hopefully a lot more to come under the, we'll call it CirclesOff banner or brand. We're excited to be in video. Got a nice little studio built up here. Audio quality, I can feel in this headphone, sounds significantly better. So fired up for that. What about you?
It's a big change from doing the typical Zoom calls that we've had, where like me and you are cutting out. We got to pause, edit things together. This is much better.
I know. And when we get guests, toss them up on the big screen behind.
I know.
It's
clutch. I also do think that I have the better jerseys on my side as well, which I'm a big fan of. This Andrew Luck jersey is, I don't like the Colts, but I love the cleanliness of their white jersey.
What are we judging best jersey
on?
The actual
combo of looks and player. Combo.
The actual jersey itself, or the better player?
Well, like you have Aaron Rodgers on your side. I like the best player here of the entire bunch. We have some off camera that
they can't see the off camera.
They can't see it, but like we'll post pictures of them to our Twitter account so people can see.
The jerseys for everyone listening still, which is probably everybody at this point. On my side, we've got a 4 on camera. You can see 2 of them, and there's another 2 here at the side. But we've got Odell Beckham Jr. on the Giants, iconic jersey, the catch, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he's not what he used to be now, obviously, as a player, but man, what a run on the Giants. Underneath him, on my side, this one's more of one that it's personal to me. May not be the best player in the league, but boy, did he have one great season. And that would be Josh Gordon, current Kansas City Chief and former Cleveland Browns. Josh Gordon, Browns jersey.
Why is that personal to you? Like, you a big marijuana smoker or what?
No, not at all, actually. I had him in fantasy when you had that insane year.
Oh yeah.
And I picked him up for we did auction leagues, like $1 bid, and he was suspended actually for the first 2 games of the year due to smoking marijuana and getting caught, and smoking weed and getting caught.
Which honestly, whatever it was, is a really dumb rule.
But yeah, maybe, but he still broke it.
Yes, he broke the rules.
Anyways,
okay.
he plays 2 games. He misses the first 2 games and then still ends up being by far number 1 wide receiver, and it's just an insane year. So Beckham and Gordon, I guess you would say that, they're still playing now, but the best years are definitely behind them. And then behind me, if you're on video, you can see we've got probably the greatest running back of all time, maybe LaDainian Tomlinson.
Definitely the fantasy GOAT.
Goat.
I mean, there's the running backs that were always top of, you can name them off the top of your head, but LT was always near the top. Priest Holmes was always near the top. Maurice Jones-Drew, who is on my side, hidden.
Maurice Jones-Drew is a good one.
MJD.
But for actual jersey, this is the best jersey.
I love the powder blue jerseys.
Powder blue Chargers is the best jersey.
It's great. I love the Chargers jerseys. I wish they had more fans, but.
And then lastly, we got Aaron Rodgers. Probably potentially going to win MVP this year. Definitely MVP favorite at the time of this recording, but absolute stud. So yeah, he's definitely the best player overall. Although it might not be the best jersey, it's just the green jersey.
It's a pretty elite set of jerseys. Where did you get these from?
I've been a sports memorabilia collector for my whole life. Probably people don't even know this. Now I'm on Cam, so more personal. I love sports memorabilia. Been collecting since I was a kid. Kind of actually my first entry into trading something. It's you buy this, oh my God, I can get this. And other people are paying this much for it and I can sell it here. And kind of I was just a kid, didn't start with a ton of money, just had a couple bucks saved up, Christmas money, birthday money, would buy some stuff I could find online, trade shows, things like that. And then via just all the apps like trading, Kijiji, eBay, stuff like that, I was able to build up a pretty solid collection. So yeah, we've got a bunch of helmets and stuff too. We'll bring different stuff into the studio as we can. But what do you got on your side? You got to describe it.
Well, I got Andrew Luck, the white Colts jersey, which is one of my favorites. And Andrew Luck, one of my favorite quarterbacks ever.
Why?
I just like the ruggedness of him at the quarterback position. When you think about quarterbacks now, you think about a guy just getting love tap, falls over, draws a flag and whatever. That's just not how I remember Andrew Luck. Like he was
not Joe Burrow either.
Not Joe Burrow either, man. He takes some big hits, a lot of hits too. But I got Andrew Luck. I got Kurt Warner, who is a personal favorite of mine and probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks ever. Like just because his career wasn't that long in the NFL based off of when he started coming over from arena football. But Kurt Warner, legend.
Absolutely.
And even more of a legend now that he wore that silver puff jacket on one of the broadcasts.
Warner's a legend.
That is amazing. And then the two that are off camera on my side are a J.J. Watt, Houston Texans. It's the red jersey, right? That's behind me?
Yep.
Which that one's pretty elite. And the aforementioned Maurice Jones-Drew, who I had the pleasure of meeting in Las Vegas once at an autograph signing at some sort of mall outside of the Venetian or something.
What'd you get him to sign?
I didn't sign. I was like walking through the mall that day and he was there signing autographs, as was Mike Tyson. This is like a regular thing, I think, apparently at one of those. Well, places.
Preston in the studio for Preston, one of our former guests we had on Bets Media, Bets TV. He has a Mike Tyson punch out signed photo, which is a cool statement piece. I've seen a lot more people picking that up lately. So it kind of blew up in the autograph sports memorabilia world because it's like, it's not really Tyson. It's not like an actual thing of Tyson. It's just the video game of that. And it's like nostalgic for people who played that. And also you get the autograph on it. It's a great piece.
My first ever email addresses were based off of characters from Mike Tyson Punch Out. And like I was so bad at creating passwords at the time that my passwords were literally part of it. Like one of my email addresses is like Piston 1986, which is my birth year. For Piston Hurricane, who is like a character.
I don't even know any of these things.
Yeah, and the password for that account was Hurricane as well, which I don't even care if that account still exists. I can do anything with it. But yeah, that's like anyone who wants to find old Rob Pizzola accounts. And
was it a Hotmail account?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like a Yahoo account because could have been Hotmail. No, my first Hotmail account was Delgado the Champ at hotmail.com.
Is it Carlos
Delgado, Toronto Blue Jays legend. Delgado the Champ at hotmail.com. I believe that I don't know if that was my first ever email address, but I think it was.
I don't even know. I never had any of these. So some of my friends did actually. I'll shut him out. No, actually, I don't even give his email out. But yeah, a couple of my buddies had some funny ones. There's numbers in it, so I'll just give out the email. But shout out my buddy Mark. His email, Mark_Lincecum for Tim Lincecum. And then he had an alternate, Mark_McGrady. So that one was his alternate for Tracy McGrady, obviously. But, a lot of people McGrady fans. Lincecum, I don't know, it was even good for more than a couple of years.
Yeah, I think he had like probably a handful of years where he was elite, and then it just like went off a cliff. But that happens to a lot of pitchers. Yeah. He was definitely elite for, I don't have my laptop in front of me, but several years. So
okay, so we will get into, I guess first we wanted to kind of, not necessarily announcements, but some segments that we were hoping to run on the pod now that we do have the video. Number one, this is Rob's idea, and I think it's going to be a really good one, but it's going to be called Tweets That Trigger Us. So Rob, you want to explain kind of what this is and how it's going to work?
Yeah, so I don't want to just, the point of this segment is not just going to be to put up tweets of people and make fun of them and berate them. There has to be like some sort of reason for doing this. And it's going to be to turn tweets that really bother me into educational pieces. So it's not just going to be tweets that I necessarily disagree with or whatever. There will be an educational sports betting spin. Everyone is fair game. Some of my best friends tweet things that trigger me. There's guests that have been on the show that tweet things that trigger me, who they will probably make appearances in the future. But we do want to get a hashtag going, which is hashtag TTTU. Very simple. Tweets that trigger us. First letter.
We might change it.
We might change it, but let's go with that for now. If you do ever see anything that you think is going to get like really upset me from a sports betting perspective, that I might be able to turn into an educational piece, tag the betstamp account, use the hashtag. It'll be very easy for us to search it on a weekly basis, and we'll use some of them for content in the show. But yeah, I mean, it just came to me as I was watching football on the weekend and seeing a bunch of stuff right before the game went off, which related to some public bet percentages and reverse line movement, and if you're betting the game now, and so on and so forth, and just a lot of stuff I'd like to hone in on going forwards.
All right, well, that should be a fun one, and I mean, can't wait to pick those up during the week. you know, a lot of times I wouldn't even say I get triggered by tweets. You know, I'll read something and you just see like the amount of interaction that a specific tweet might get. And it's oftentimes like it's detrimental to the people who are, you know, liking and engaging with that, because they're really building their own kind of perception of sports betting off of, you know, someone's tweet, where even if the person is someone who's sharp at sports betting, might be something that they're misleading or very, you know, incorrect info. And it's tough to see like, you know, 50 interactions saying like, yup, this is right. Got to follow this trend. Like, should have listened to this trend that, you know, the Chargers weren't going to win, you know, even though like, you know, it didn't really have much to do with it. So we'll hope to bring up a lot of stuff like that. And like Rob said, it's not going to be at any specific people or anything like that. Anything's fair game. Send us in, tag us. We're going to fire them up on the screen. We'll make it happen. We mentioned it last time. We also do want to at least try out the second screen experience, where we might live stream, you know, maybe with an NFL playoff game or something like that. And I think we could all agree, like the commentary right now is in a pretty much a really mixed phase, where some of the commentators are quite good. A lot of them I don't think are too good. It's a lot of, you know, they bring up the same things over and over again, talking about like, it's the analytics, and then they'll go through the fourth down debate, and then it'll be a different thing. Should he have go for it? I would have gone for it. A lot of like bogus throwing out. The rules experts, you know, aren't even really rules experts anymore. So what we're thinking is potentially is making our own spin on like a little bit of commentary. Not going to be any play-by-play or anything like that. But we'll give our opinion on kind of like what's going on, different decision-making, what people could do. And you know, if it works, it works, and we'll stick with it. If not, then we might scrap it after a couple tries. But either way, looking for feedback from you guys, and we hope that that can start pretty soon with you know, as soon as the first NFL playoff game.
I think the Manning cast really changed things for me in terms of watching football games, where it's just like two guys, obviously brothers, but two guys just hanging out, watching the game like they would at home. It's very laid back, very casual. I'd like to try to recreate some of that experience. Obviously, we can't live stream the NFL games. We're prohibited from airing the games, but I think there is something about
without express written consent, of course.
Right. Which we won't obtain.
Well, we can ask.
Yeah, we could. I mean,
let's see how much it costs before we say it's off the table.
True. I shouldn't never say never. I mean, that's a lesson in sports betting as well, or it can be applied to sports betting. But yeah, that's changed things for me quite a bit in terms of the way that I like to watch my Monday night football games. And, you know, I don't want to hear Brian Greasy advocating to kick a 56-yard field goal anymore on first down and late in the game. Like he gets real upset when teams don't kick field goals late in games.
Okay. What about the Cardinals-Colts game? Third down and goal. Mm-hmm. Round 56.
Don't, please. If we were going to do a tweets that trigger us segment, this is definitely a moment that triggers me segment.
Do people even know what we're talking about though? Like
100. Well, I'll explain what's going on here. But the Cardinals are going to need a touchdown and a field goal to tie. They're trailing by 10 points. They get the ball back with 4 minutes and 16 seconds left in their own territory. I don't know if it was off a kickoff, whatever, the 25-yard line or so. So basically, they have 4 minutes and 16 seconds to make up 10 points, which is very easy. You have two scenarios here. You basically have to kick a field goal before the 2-minute warning so that you get that 2-minute warning as an additional timeout, or you're going to have to score a touchdown or a field goal and try an onside kick and get the ball. Now, the Cardinals did the absolute worst thing possible, which was drain as much clock as they could, get to third and goal, and then for some reason on third and goal decided they were going to bring out the field goal team and kick with like 35 seconds left in the game.
Yeah. When you could just take an end zone shot and burn no more than 6 to 7 seconds and have an additional chance that that's your touchdown, and then you only need a field goal.
But
bananas.
But what's been advocated by commentators for years in the NFL is kicking on third down, because what if you fumble the snap? What if something happens on the snap? Then you have the fourth down to still be able to kick. Well, okay, they have no timeouts left. So if they fumble the snap on third down anyways, they're draining way too much time. So first of all, that doesn't matter. The second thing is, when does this happen? I cannot recall a football game where they fumbled the snap on third down and it was like, oh, thank God, like they have fourth down to kick the ball again. If it has happened, it's happened like it's definitely happened less than a handful of times in like the last 2 decades. This just doesn't happen anymore. It's a very easy play.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
So,
There's no explanation for this because, like, why would you? And even if you wanted to kick it on third down, like to end the game in overtime with a chip shot field goal, like I could see that being the case. Like, fine, let's just kick it. But in this scenario, like you still needed to get more points. This was barely going to waste any time. Like if you were going to kick the field goal on third down, then you technically should have kicked it like on first down, right?
Right. You would have saved the time, the additional time. I know, but I was just so frustrated by that.
One of these days, someone will fumble the snap.
Well, of course, it's going to happen.
They'll fall on it, and then everyone's going to say, that's why you snap it and try to kick it on third down, because a scenario exactly like that.
Two of my friends currently have a wager right now on whether or not a kneel down will be fumbled in the next decade. And this was about 5 years ago. This wager was made where some guy, I don't remember the exact odds, but all I know is that one of my friends is basically sweating every kneel down in the NFL now because of like the one time where Phillip Rivers fumbled a snap. And this all started in a group chat where it was easily a kneel down play. One of my friends got mad at the other one saying the game's not over yet. Don't say the game's over, whatever. Don't say we cashed our bet. And he's like, there's no way they're going to fumble this snap. Right away, I'll make you a $1,000 wager that in the next 10 years, there will be a fumbled snap. I want these odds. So it's like a ridiculous wager now. There is going to be no fumbled snap, but one of my friends only did this out of principle to make the other guy sweat every snap.
Now he's got to sweat him out. But it's so tough to have a fumbled snap where they fumble it and then don't recover it. Because you're in the kneel down formation. Like they put all the guys there just in case as well. Like someone will dive on that ball.
It happened once. It was the Chargers with Phil Rivers. If it happens again, it's going to be the Chargers because it's that they are the team that would do that. Chargers, or I could see Kirk Cousins doing that. Like there's only like a couple teams in the league where you can picture it happening.
What about the Falcons?
Falcons, yes. Like if I had to make a tier list, the top 3 for me would be any team with Kirk Cousins, Chargers, because this always happens in Chargers, and Bears. But the Bears are not kneeling out enough. That's the problem, right? But it would totally happen to the Bears.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so we mentioned we're going to bring some more guests on. We got a long list of amazing guests that we have planned for 2022. We would want to also thank everyone that came on in 2021. We might do a little recap at the year end. But now that we have the new studio, we will fire up the video on the screen, so it'll be a lot more interactive if anyone wants to pull it up on YouTube. And lastly, like another idea we had for the podcast was just to break down different bettors and kind of betting patterns and things like that. So we talked about betstamp a lot and exactly how to, find winning bettors and things like that. But like it's no better time than now. We'll pull it up on the screen. We have an upcoming episode where we're going to pull open a couple of our favorite bettors and do some analysis on like what they're doing right, what they may be doing wrong, what you can look for in a person just by their betting history, right? So we've talked a lot about this. This is going to happen 100%. We're excited for this. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the benefits of being able to do video alongside audio as well. And obviously, we don't want to lose the audio listeners either. So for those who are listening in podcast form, we will be pay very special attention to make sure that this is conducive on all platforms. I used to, when I first got into media, I started in radio. Eventually that radio show started to be simulcast on TV in Canada, cross country. So I'm very familiar with having to appease 2 different sets of, I shouldn't say viewers, because it's not only viewers, but you know what I'm getting at. So for those who are listening to the podcast and only care to continue to listen in podcast form, we will make sure that we do break it down so that it's very clear for everyone.
Yeah, we've got our editor here as well, Zach. Are you on mic or no?
Yeah, my mic should work.
All right, so we got Zach as well. He's a new, I guess we'll call it an asset to the podcast. It's going to be like our young Jamie for those Joe Rogan Experience listeners. We'll be able to pull stuff up whenever we need, put it on the screen. We got a soundboard, I think, listen, we're not going to make this a joke podcast, but you know how Rob said he mentioned his email earlier, what the passwords were. I know one guy who's gonna look that up right when he hears this. And Zach, hit the drop.
What happened to you, Pizzola?
So we're gonna have some drops in there. That obviously being our friend from Italy. Regards from Italy, Francesco.
Regards from
Greco.
Canada, Francesco.
Francesco, nice to see you. And definitely, we're gonna just make it a more fun podcast as well. So that's the summary. With that being said, I think we're also gonna need a new table or something angled because my neck is already.
You're like a hand microphone in the hand guy.
I'm done right now. Like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
you
have ADD or something. You're all over the place.
What I need is, you guys see this. I can't sit still right now. We need a desk right here for this mic, and then I can face the cams. I don't want to face angled cam. I want to see looking. Look, my thing doesn't. Hello. You know what? We're gonna make this work, but first week you got to bear with us. My neck's in shambles right now. We're gonna need a new desk for next week. Today, two amazing topics for Rob and I. Number one, we're gonna go through is the absolute best way to purchase picks from somebody. Okay, now, yes, we get it.
Controversial.
Don't buy picks. These guys are idiots. Don't buy picks. Why would they be buying picks? If they actually bet for real, they would never recommend people to buy picks. Yeah, we know all that. Understood. What we're telling you is this. If you want to buy picks, which most people do, we're going to basically break down process of elimination, what to look for, what you can look for, and how you can do it correctly. Buying picks is not the worst thing in the world. In fact, you can be profitable tailing other people's picks. We're going to show you how. We're going to just break down some things to look for. We've gone through in the previous episodes, and we've basically explained what to look for in pick sellers. So it'll be more of a similar episode, but right now what we're going to do is process of elimination from a pick buyer. How's that going to work? And then when that's done, our second topic for today, which is a really interesting one for a lot of people, more of a sharper topic, is market manipulation. So this is betting markets often get manipulated, just like every market. We're going to, outline some examples, how it happens, and more importantly, why it happens. We're going to show you exact examples of times in which this has happened. And, hopefully it can teach you guys and everyone listening what it is and how to potentially use it in your favor instead of getting burned by it. So, Rob, with that being said, best way to buy picks, process of elimination, you're up.
Okay, so let's start with this because it's important to note this and for other people that haven't listened to previous podcasts as well. Buying picks does make it more difficult for you to win. So just so people understand, when you're betting with a sports book, you're betting into a vig, usually minus 110. You do have some reduced juice books as well, but you're betting into a vig. That's where the sports book has their edge because they're charging you. You're going to have to now win at a 52.4% clip at minus 110. That's where the edge comes into play. Now, when you add in buying picks on top of that, is just another cost to overcome. Now, there's a lot of factors that play into that decision, the amount that you're betting, the amount that you're paying for picks, but it does make it tougher to profit. So I think there's a caveat there. I just want to share that. That doesn't mean that I'm opposed to buying picks. I've sold picks before. People know this. Sold the pick service for a year. But that has to be said. Now, for buying picks. Shameless self-promotion of betstamp. But one of the first things I would look for nowadays is third-party verified in some way. Because I have tracked people's picks before prior to working for betstamp. For those who followed me on Twitter for a long time, I had a feud with a few touts, Philly Godfather, Vegas Runner, who is now Yanni the Greek, where I tracked their picks for years, and they were very different from what was posted on their website. So just because somebody posts plays on a website or a Google sheet or whatever, their Twitter account, there are obviously ways to delete those. It's very simple. If I started a Twitter account and was posting plays every single day and I didn't have enough followers, I could go back to any previous day and just delete a tweet of losing plays. Very simple. If I run a Google sheet, I could do the same thing. If I run my own website, I can do the same thing. And frankly, there's not a lot of recourse. Even if someone were to catch me in the act and call me out, it's not getting to the majority of people that would be interested in buying my plays anyways, whether that's a Reddit thread or some sort of forum. So for me, the number one thing I'd like to see is some sort of third-party documentation, verification.
Definitely agree. So process of elimination, we're saying it's not 100%. Nothing we say on here is a black and white. Hey, if they're not doing this, then see ya. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that is likely the number one thing you're going to learn is that if they don't have that, it's too many red flags. So even bigger pick services now, stuff like Right Angle Sports, I'm sure we'll get into, has reached out to us and basically said, we want betstamp as a third-party verifier. So everything that we put out, we don't want to just post it out on our site. We want it on betstamp as well in real time. So we've been able to do that. And it's basically an extra thing where like, if you have nothing to hide, then why not? Like if you're trying to make a legit business of it, it's an extra layer of verification. It's 100% free. It takes a little bit of time and it's going to actually build a lot of credibility. So that's number one. Even the big pick selling services, no excuse to not be, posting on a third-party verified app. Obviously, recommendation would be betstamp, as we're the only one that allows you to verify against multiple lines and obviously have a significant amount of other features.
We reach out to a lot of touts ourselves. Betstamp does this. This is like a regular thing for us because we want to onboard people onto our platform and we want to be the source of the truth in terms of verification. I can tell you the most common objections we get, which are valid to the person who is saying them to us, but I don't buy them as excuses. The first is, I'm just lazy and I don't want to have to track the picks, which honestly, if you're buying from someone who is too lazy to document the record somewhere else, which takes quite literally 15 seconds to lock in a play, then I would be very concerned about that person's work ethic if I was buying from them in general. Not saying that you necessarily need to work so hard to be winning at sports betting, but like that would be a character flaw that I would say, I don't want to buy from this person anyways. The second is, well, if I publicly post my plays, then you can reverse engineer what I'm doing. Somebody out there can say, okay, these are all the outputs. These are all the picks that so-and-so did. I can produce some sort of model. Somebody can produce some sort of model that is able to replicate what I'm doing. While technically possible, I would say that it is extremely unfeasible for that to happen.
They could always buy your picks and get that anyway.
Of course, that's like it's. So those are the most common reasons that we get, but to me, neither of them really holds any water.
No, a valid reason is actually that you don't want the plays to be released at all. If you don't sell picks, we talked about this last week. Like, it's a valid reason. If you don't want your picks out there for whatever reason, power to you. But if you're selling picks and anybody can access these picks via paying you in oftentimes a small amount of money, such as $10 a month, $20 a month. If you're willing to give your pick someone for $20 a month, then there's absolutely no reason that you should say, well, I don't want them out there because I don't want people to reverse engineer or anything like that. Like, if you can pay it and it's available for a subscription online, then, no excuse there.
But it's like, this is just common sense. And we're harping on the first topic, which is like, but you would always do this. Almost everyone does this in other forms of their life. Like if I'm going to go see a movie, I'll probably check out a movie review for that movie before I go. I don't want to read about it. And I'm not saying everyone is like this. If I'm going to go to a mechanic or something, I'm going to ask someone, like if somebody, either I'm going to get a referral from someone else who says, I go to this guy and he's great or whatever, or I'm going to probably look it up on some sort of Google reviews. Like people seek out other advice. The challenge in this space is that a lot of the other advice out there is, excuse my language, but essentially a circle jerk of all these touts that are promoting one another.
We're demonetized off YouTube. It's over. This episode's getting demonetized.
First video.
But that's essentially what it is. Like you see all these touts working together, promoting one another. It's just a big marketing angle. So with the third party verification, there's nothing. No one can pay us. No one's paying us to alter their picks in any way. That's not how our platform works. Period. And there's other platforms out there. I mean, I'm not going to name them, but really, I think we do this the best.
Agreed. Okay, so next up, process of elimination. So you want someone third-party verified. I think it's honestly a prerequisite at this point. If anybody ever asks me, and people do ask me, what do I look for? That's got to be a prerequisite. If they don't have that, then I think for the majority of people, you should write that off. Again, like I said, it's not black and white. There are people who are not third-party verified who win. But if you're a new person looking in, chances are you're likely to get burned significantly higher rate by somebody who's not third-party verified.
Well said. Yeah, these are not like 100% this needs to happen, but we're outlining what we would do in these scenarios.
Okay, so what do you got next?
To go down a number of different paths here. This one's a little bit more complex, but I think it's important. And it's, oddly enough, the manner in which they post plays or where they're posting plays. So, for example, if I see someone tweet out a $100,000 screenshot of a play at Bovada, which is an offshore recreational square book, I know that, one, the image could be altered or doctored. Two, in order to get a $100,000 bet at that book, you have to be a long-term loser or a VIP for the. So a lot of these guys and girls out there who post screenshots, images at certain books, and what the bet is and the bet size at that specific book reveals a lot about them as a bettor. Now, I understand that that's difficult for a novice or a rookie bettor or someone who doesn't know a lot about sports, who's pick buying, to decipher that. But there are clues in what sports books they're posting from, the dollar amounts if they're showing screenshots, the timing of the wagers is another one as well. Specifically, if someone posts, and we've talked about this on this pod before, but it's always easy to use LeBron James as an example, because if LeBron James is out of a game, line is going to steam like crazy. Happens for star players in every sport. But if someone posts a play on that game 2 hours after the injured player is announced out and says, I'm playing this because this player is injured, that is a dead giveaway that this person is not a long-term winner. So those are a couple things for me. The sports books that they track at or play at, bet sizes at those books, and timing of bets.
Okay, fair enough. I would add one more here if I'm going process of elimination. And it ties hand in hand with the verified record keeping, but outside of verification there, even if you just want to keep it on your own, the most important thing that I would look for when trusting somebody who I might want to tail their bets is that they actually care about it and there's a few things that I can pinpoint, but Rob mentioned record keeping as one, like people being, I'm too lazy to track these. If you don't have an ironclad, pristine tracking sheet or something like that, or use something like betstamp or even, competing apps, if you don't have something that tracks every single thing you bet, the exact amount you bet it, the day you bet it, what book you bet it at, all that stuff, then I don't necessarily trust that you're going to have the skills or the ability to actually go through and beat the market. So, for example, if you have someone who says, if you say, yeah, I'm up, I'm up 35 units. I tracked it on Twitter. It's like, well, what's your breakdown of those units? Okay, what sport, what bet type, what sports book? All of these things are vital in actually determining, different paths to success. So if you're constantly losing to one book and beating another book, that's a really big trigger. Going to help you a lot. If you're constantly winning at one sport or one bet type or one, prop type, and you're losing at others, it's going to help you a lot to actually know that info. Anyone who's not willing to put in the work or have the capability or knowledge to actually go through, track everything manually and or via an app, and just have it in there, it's essentially like buying something off of a business that doesn't have their books in order. To be a reputable company, you have to have everything in order. You need to know, like, okay, this is my cost, this is my profit here. This is what I can do. I can go down to this price. You're not going to want to buy off someone who's completely like to trust someone to give you a service when they can't even tell you like how many services they've provided or, you know, the quality of those services or where they might be going wrong. It's like, it's very muddy, and if you're serious in sports betting, you want to make money, got to just keep everything clean. Record keeping, huge deal for me.
That's a good one. I think I mean, a lot of these things are just monitoring a tout's behavior before you buy picks that will, and I'm very consumed in the Twitter platform, not so much in the Instagram, TikTok space where there's touts on those platforms as well. But there's things I see like, went 0-3 this afternoon. We're going to get it back on Sunday Night Football tonight. Discounted price, whatever. Chasing, right? And then larger play sizes. Or anything you can do to get that. I mean, this is what recreational bettors do in general. And there's a lot of totes that mirror that kind of behavior. Where if this wasn't a play for you this morning, why is it a play now that you've lost 3 games in a row? So there's dead giveaways like that. But the biggest one to me, where I think it's very, very easy to spot winners and losers, is the marketing trends that you'll notice from a lot of touts. So for example, someone who sells MLB plays and it's in the middle of MLB season and they're advertising like their all games record or some other sport, probably give away that they're not having a good MLB season. They don't even know it. They're trying to market themselves in some way where people will buy picks, but they can't market an MLB record, for example. Then you get the, you know, so-and-so is 8-1 in his last 9 NFL totals plays. Well, why did he pick 9, a sample size of 9? Like, this is a question I would ask myself, right?
Let me tell you guys a little hint. It's for everyone. If anyone says they've won 8 of the last 9, guaranteed 100% of the time, that also means they've won 8 of the last 10.
Yep.
Think of it.
Yep.
If you're one,
it's true.
If you're 12-1 in your last 13, you're also 12-2 in your last 14. Every time.
That is, I mean, I can't argue with that.
It's not a big deal. It's not a revolution. Everyone knows this, but
it's hilarious.
People cherry pick different things. I think honestly, that's just marketing in general. So I'm not even mad at that. But you mentioned like when I even go back to this record keeping, like it's not even about saying, I'm up this many units. Like if you want to buy someone off picks off somebody, you have to literally say exactly, you have to ask them like, hey, what's your record in this year by sport, by bet type? Exactly how much was risked on that? What's your ROI on there? Not just like, oh yeah, I'm 53% this year. Like 53% on what? Like 53% on straight bets, minus 110, 53% against the spread. Are you 53% on picking NFL favorites of minus 250 or more? Like none of this actually tells you anything if you just look at one line of record. You need to delve in to some sort of tracking before you actually go through someone. And if they don't have those plays documented, then it's like a immediate write-off right away. If they do have them documented, it's a lot of stuff we will get into still now, I'm sure, here that you can look through. But no document, no business for me.
I agree with that. I think ultimately at the end of the day, there still needs to be a match between the pick buyer and the pick seller. And when I say that, there are touts that I respect. Now, granted, these are the ones that the betting market respects.
But there's some that I respect that are not necessarily public figures in the betting market.
I agree.
And it's not that I respect a lot of touts that I personally think don't even win. And the reason I respect them is because they still go about it in an honest and open way.
Transparent.
Yeah. And still keep the records and still try to improve. And then I do feel there's a significant shot that, okay, I don't think you're going to win this season, but you're on the right track and, a couple strides here and there, and you will be a winning better next season. You know what I mean? Have you ever come across that as well?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's nothing that's just clear cut. There's guys that like you said, and there's long-term winning bettors that are going to have losing seasons, long-term losing bettors that are going to have winning seasons. There's always some element of variance that has to be accounted for. And I mean, that's not easy to do. Not everyone that's a winner is going to release a play and move the market. That's not the case. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. But here's what I'm saying. We've had Fabian Sommer on this show, Suma, one of the earlier episodes, football handicapper, long-term winner, 5 seasons of documented record keeping, now tracks on betstamp as well. And he's going to release a play. He's going to give everyone a heads up in a Slack channel. Play coming in 5 to 10 minutes. But as soon as he posts that play, people are going to rush to bet it for a good reason. He's a long-term winner. Everybody wants to back that play and get the best of the number. If I'm a guy that works 9 to 5, I'm in meetings for a lot of times in the day. I'm not checking my phone every 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, not available to bet these. Then there's not a lot of value in me picking that pick service. This is what I'm talking about, the match with buyer and seller, right? If there's someone, for example, that I believe is a long-term winner, is going to post his picks at the same time every morning, 8 a.m., I can bet them, go to work, don't have to worry about anything else, and that matches my lifestyle, then maybe I'm going to go for it. So I think that there's like an element that's not accounted for in how am I going to get down on these plays? And like, do I need to be available at all hours of the day? Is somebody going to send out, is my tout going to send me information saying Carson Wentz just got announced out, go bet the Las Vegas Raiders everywhere plus 7.5, where it's not even on the board in most of the spots, gets removed, going to count it towards their record. And I'm just going to be like, there are those those stylistic matches that I think are important.
Yeah, there's 2 types of touts. There's touts where they release the play and you can get the number all day, or potentially even get a better number, which is obviously a huge red flag. And there's touts that release a play and move the whole market. And if you're not available to get that in a short period of time, then you're likely out of luck as well. So like Rob's saying as well, it got to be a good match. I know Right Angle Sports just released like a more of a light type package where they only release 1 play a day. It's at noon, so you can get on your lunch break, etc. And it's a good solution to something like that where you have to have like time. The time is everything. If you're not betting all day, I don't want to say if you're not betting all day, that's actually a mistake. If you're not available to bet all day, then you're obviously going to miss stuff. And everyone in the world has alternate commitments. No one just sits in front of the screen 24/7. So everyone's going to miss stuff. But at the end of the day, like that's a big deal. You have to know like when the optimal time is to get stuff. If you, for example, subscribe to Suma's picks, and you only bet them an hour and a half after he bets them, or 5 hours after he bets them, and you're just getting the updated market numbers, then despite him being, a good tout, who we feel potentially checks all the boxes. I'm not going to say wins long-term, has won in the past and checks all the boxes. Even despite that, like if you're betting that hour and a half later, doesn't matter. You're going to lose. You're likely going to lose. So timing is everything. I'm glad you brought that up. You got to make sure you're a good match. You can get the plays right away on release, and you have to make sure that obviously something's happening when these are being released. And if nothing's happening when these are being released, you have to know why. Is it for a reason? Does that person release it to a few people who he knows are not going to move the market and then blast it after? Do they not bet it out themselves because they're being paid to not bet it out themselves because other movers are blasting the market later? These are all big things, and I think you should probably be asking more questions when buying picks from someone that are not necessarily, do you win? Do you win? You're always going to get some sort of bullshit answer. It's always going to be yes. You should be asking about records, and you should be asking like where it is and where you can look through it on your own. And you should also be asking about the timing of pick releases, what happens typically after those. You can check. If you see a documented history, you can check what time that person releases it. That's why the tracking apps like betstamp are so good. If you're in an Excel sheet, the chances are he's not going to write down the exact time of the day. It's not going to be a timestamp of when he released the play. It's going to say December 19, Chargers -6, -110, and maybe if you're lucky, puts the book. But if you're on betstamp, you're going to see book, timestamp, date. It's going to auto grade. You're going to see closing line value at the end of the week. You're going to see potentially in the future movement of how that line moved at the time when that was posted. So a lot more stuff there as well.
Well, and I think the timestamp one is one that I didn't think about, but it's extremely important because, we go through profiles on betstamp all the time. I know at least I do. And you'll see people who are very successful, who are selling pick packages, but they are selling plays that what we typically call overnights, or releasing the day before. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, winning at sports betting, you win however you're going to win. But if you're going to charge me a certain amount of money a month, I have to be able to justify a certain bet size to get down on those. If you are releasing plays on FanDuel openers when they are the only book in market that's opening at that time, and they're coming out with a $100 limit, and then you're charging me $500 a month for those plays, well, it's very unlikely that I'm going to see value on that in the long run. So that's another thing when it comes down to looking at the timestamps. When is this person betting? Are they betting into mature markets? Is it the day before? And like, to each their own. I'm not saying never tail someone who's betting into early markets. You just have to understand what your market is going to look like at that same time, right? Why am I going to buy picks off somebody who's betting FanDuel openers when I don't have a FanDuel account? And at the time when he puts out those openers, nobody else has some numbers on the board yet. What value is that to me, right? So that's where the timestamps come. But I think what it all boils down to is you need the enough information to make an informed decision. And when you have a full verified third-party record with the individual plays, you can make that informed decision a lot easier than when it's just pulling up a random Google sheet. Like you said, not time-stamped. Sometimes odds are not even correct. And it's like, or people who don't update those sheets for days or weeks sometimes. And then there becomes all sorts of issues. When you go logging 100, 200 plays at a time, you get all sorts of data entry issues as well. Like, this is just verified real-time stuff. So that's it. That's what it's all about for me.
Yeah. The other good thing about betstamp is a lot of times touts will send like one set of plays to one subscriber base, one set to the other, just to, manage risk within their subscriber base. With betstamp, it's all like, instant. It goes out to your whole subscriber base. No trickery there. But to your point on like the timing of the moves, I want to bring up one example. Like, we've had both of the pro bet guys on here. That's Harut and Drew, who was on just a few episodes ago. And what the thing with kind of like a style of betting that they're doing is like, you could have access to every single play that they did, and you can have access, like 5 minutes later after they played it, and it's not going to be valuable to you because you're not going to be able to pick up those numbers anywhere. You might be able to pick up, a stale couple $100 here and there, but the reality is they're getting ahead of numbers, right? So it's not even like, if they told me like, oh yeah, we want to sell picks, they would never even say that because they know that they can't possibly sell picks and still bet at the same time. All they could do is, give alerts or something like that, but it's never going to work because, you could have access to their whole history. You can get everything to do. Those guys win. But it's not going to matter because you're not going to be able to get those numbers, and not getting the same numbers or not getting the best of the number is the recipe to lose afterwards. So, if you had everything, even like I said, even 5-10 minutes late, the info is next to worthless. You might be able to scrounge at a couple pennies, but that's going to be the most.
I think we've done a pretty good job on this topic. Just a lot of things to look for, but you have to do your due diligence, just like any case. If it seems too good to be true, it very likely is.
Yeah. And on the Instagram stuff, like the funniest one that I could say is like, most people, Instagram's more of a photo/video platform. It's so frustrating to look at this, and it doesn't even trigger me anymore or anything like that. But like, don't get caught up in people who are like posting photos like on like with like an ocean view and like, Gucci shoes and stuff like that. And like, oh, sports betting king, like that. You can't do that. Like, you're not going to be able to bet sports all day from the beach. Like, you need more than one computer screen. Like you need probably, I would go ahead and say, like, if someone's betting on like one computer screen, one, like just on their laptop, like you're losing out on so much money to be made. Like, you can't just bet on one screen. There's no way they have a laptop on the beach and it's not going to work like that. So that being said, again, like, those are all pictures that are pretty cool. And, someone there and they're like, I got these like Gucci flops, and here's my, here's my Mac with my iPhone, with my Apple Watch, AirPods in the corner, wooden case, and then like I'm overlooking the thing with my Gucci flops. Like, probably not an actual sports bettor. Those people are, buying into that image and that lifestyle and think like, wow, this guy must make a lot of money because he has that stuff. But it's likely not the case.
Well, lifestyle tells you nothing about that person as a sports bettor. like particularly as a sports bettor. Like that person could have made a bunch of money in the stock market. They could have inherited a bunch of money from their parents or just being born into a rich family or whatever. That money could come from anywhere. Could come from their pick sales just because they're very good marketers, which we know of a lot of people who are, clearing big sums, selling picks that don't even win. And I mean, that just feeds into it. I think a lot of people see that and they're like, wow, that could be me, on the beach and whatever. But just don't get taken by that.
Don't get taken by that. All right. So we're going to get into our next topic. Zach, how much time are we at right now?
50 minutes.
We're at 50.
Oh, we talked for a while.
Oh man, we're going to have to cut some stuff out. No, I'm just kidding. We don't really edit stuff out on this podcast, unless a guest or anything has asked us to in the past. But for YouTube, I don't know how it's going to work. We might have to edit some stuff. I'm fidgeting like you guys would not believe. For anyone who's on the audio, I cannot sit still. I'm holding my mic. We need a desk right here.
Well, you're sitting on a folding chair.
Yeah, no, this is it. We're getting new chairs and desk for next week. Like, we'll put the orders in today. We got to get something. Who knows when it'll ship here? But
I don't think I've moved this entire time.
No, you haven't. He's a seasoned vet. Rob is a seasoned veteran of doing video appearances. He's obviously appeared on TV before.
And
podcasts, stuff like that, radio gigs.
Now appearing on Cameo. Shameless self-plug. No, I am on Cameo now.
Why wouldn't you say that before Christmas?
You can book me. I have been booked 3 times already.
Zach, hit that drop, please.
What happened to you, Pizzola?
I am
Cameo now.
I am raising money for charity. So whatever Cameo doesn't, I don't even know what Cameo's cut is of the thing. I think it's like 20-25%. The rest of it's going to charity, raising money for diabetes research and cancer research as well. So if you want to book me for a Cameo, you can do it. I've done one that's a positive reinforcement video, which was nice. Is like, you're going through a tough time, bad period variance, like keep your chin up. If you want like the negative, trash my friend. One guy's just like, please trash my friend for betting on Drew Lock, which I absolutely loved doing that video, even though I have money.
People might not even know what Cameo is. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a platform. Now we're giving a free plug. Cameo, sponsor us. No, I'm just kidding. We're giving a free plug. Cameo, it's basically a platform where you can, now I feel bad saying this, you can get shout outs from celebrities. So not saying that Rob is a celebrity, but he's, I guess, an influencer. He's definitely an influencer in the sports betting world. So you can basically pay this service, Cameo. What are you charging? How much is it?
$20.
$20. Okay, so for $20, for a $20 donation to charity after Cameo's fee, Rob will essentially make a video of whatever you say within reason.
So I denied one video. One guy tried to sneakily. He sent me like a request on Sunday. It's like, please record a video with all of your NFL picks for next week. That was a hard decline. Like, come on, like. I'm
gonna buy that for $20.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, come on. At this point, I might need to up my the amount that I'm charging if I'm going to do picks videos.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but I think that's funny. So yeah, you can get Rob on Cameo. There's a lot of other people on there. I mean, I've gotten it for a couple of buddies before. That was pretty actually hilarious. It's a great concept. So if you want Rob to trash your bets, then go get him on Cameo.
Yeah, trash your friends' bets, whatever. To clear the air, Cameo reached out to me. So I want to make that explicitly clear. They emailed me, said, we're looking for sports betting influencers on the platform. Would you be interested? At first, I said, nah, I don't think it's for me. They said, we know you do some charitable stuff. Would be a good fit. You can link it directly in app. Sales pitch is really good. So I'm there now. It is charitable. I actually do like doing the videos. So if you send a request, it's very likely I'll take it, but don't send me a request to give you my picks for the week. That's not going to, I'm not recording.
Bro.
I didn't even know he had that one. That's awesome. Okay, so we'll get into the market manipulation real quick then. So we'll try to keep this like 20-minute segment max, so we can keep the podcast a reasonable hour. So market manipulation. This is basically something that happens in all markets, like I mentioned. What this is, and before I get into it, I really have to explain kind of like how a lot of the new school sports books are posting lines in today's day. And then I can get into why you'll see that market manipulation. But what we mean by this is people betting, potentially the wrong side of what they actually want in order to move a number and, kind of like a little bait and switch, you bait the sports book to hang a worse number, a more favorable number on the side you actually wanted. So then you can, in turn, get more money down on that other number. So in a quick example, if I could bet at a sports book, and let's say there was, let's say there were different accounts, right? So Rob's account, if he bets $1, he'll move the number 10 cents. And my account, if I bet $100, I'll move the number 10 cents. And on, let's say Aaron Rodgers' account, if he bets $100,000, he doesn't move the number at all, because they're like, Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't bet. He's quarterback in the NFL. So basically what would happen is potentially you'd have like Rob and Aaron Rodgers working together, and they would say, I'll just call him Aaron for the purpose of this.
A-Rod.
So have the A-Rod potentially bets, the actual A-Rod. So we might have Rob partner with someone like Aaron, and he says, okay, listen, I want to bet on, the New Orleans Saints, and right now the number is at +3. So Rob, for $1, you can move the number up and you can bet the other side of the Saints game. And when you bet that other side, we're now going to get Saints +3.5. And if you bet it again, we're going to get Saints +4. So now Rob, for $2, can move that number. And now Aaron's account can now go ahead and hit the Saints +4, which is a full point better. And all it costed was the $2 in loss that Rob hit at the worst numbers. That gets now deducted off Aaron's share. And, you make an average number that's slightly worse. In this example, obviously, moving a number for $1 doesn't exist. And then being able to play back for $100,000, that would be an insane earn, and you'd make a ton of money that way. But just for the simplicity of the story, that's kind of the numbers I wanted to use. So that's how kind of market manipulation is. But sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Oh, no, this is, yeah. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be someone else. So that's what I just want to start with. A lot of times if you're a professional bettor, you're not getting down in one place. You're not just betting in one spot. You're betting in a variety of different spots.
No, that's what I was going to get into. So let me get into it then, because that's what I was going to mention is right now we've seen this a lot is, we know that a lot of these new school sports books via regulated and a lot of the offshore sports books right now, they don't originate their own lines, and they don't have a provider that just gives them the lines fresh. And what happens is they don't chart off their own action. We can give you a recommendation. We'll link one of Spanky's podcasts, or potentially tweet it out after, that does a good job of explaining how this works. But essentially what happens is these new school bookmakers don't move on their own action. So when Aaron bets 100,000, they don't move the number. They just take that position. The only way they move the number is if the person who they're copying the number from, which is some of the prevalent offshore sports books, mainly Pinnacle and BetChris, if they move their number, then these new school sports books are going to just move to copy that number. But what's happening is Pinnacle and Chris are actually charting that number. So they're moving based on, the grading of this guy's account versus this girl's account versus this person's account. And the new school books are just basically moving on air, is what they call it. So even if they don't write a single bet on the number, but Pinnacle now moves that number, they're going to move that number directly without taking a hit. So now what happens is, if you can get your hands on like a couple of these accounts, or if somebody has, big time accounts where they can move a lot of money through some of these books that are quote unquote copying the lines, what happens is they can now play the books like Pinnacle or Chris the other way, wait for those other books to copy. And a lot of the pay-per-head shops are like this as well, where they'll just copy on air without actually having any, without writing any action. And what will happen is you'll be able to basically move a number 5, 10, 20 cents one way for a small sum of money, and then be able to play back on the other side at a significantly favorable number. When you basically cost average it together, you're getting a significantly better number that's usually a plus expected value play and an earn in the range of, almost half of what your bait was. So you might be able to earn even potentially up to 5 or 10% via this method. So that's market manipulation at a rough, in a rough go. I guess that's like a 2-3 minute description of it. We'll link Spanky's podcast. He does an amazing job of explaining a little bit more about what this is and why it happens. But Rob, wanted to come to you for any comments. Where do you see this in the space right now?
It's getting less prominent, at least in major markets. This is just me speaking basically out of my ass from my own personal experiences and just watching the markets that I bet in particularly. But a lot of these fakes now would get picked off.
Absolutely.
So what that means is you got so many people who are watching the screen. They see Pinnacle's number move or Chris's number move, and they're like, is this a real move or does it look and smell fishy to me? If it does look and smell fishy, I'm going to bet back to the opposite side because there's value in the opposite side, and I know that. So it doesn't happen as much as it used to. Definitely, I know when I first seriously started getting involved in betting and was betting larger amounts, you'd see it be much more prominent in the markets that I bet at the very least. Props markets, you see it happen all the time, especially props markets. You have an offshore, which is 5 Dimes, which originates a lot of prop markets for auto racing, for example, where you would maybe see a lot of other PPH accounts or regulated books just copy 5 Dimes NASCAR head-to-head matchups when they open, for example. So from that point of view, you basically could bet at 5 Dimes for if your count is flagged as sharp, or even if it's not, if you keep betting the prop enough times and move the entire market everywhere to a range where you have significant value on the other side. So that still happens quite frequently. Eventually, that kind of edge dries up. People start to realize what's happening. But I have seen that over the course of years. That's not even a market I pay attention to, and I see that. But I think typically what's happening now is you will, if you're thinking about manipulating a market, I say faking all the time. It's the same thing, essentially.
Faking the line.
You have to think in the sense of, would I be able to get away with doing this now? So you start to see like a little bit of disguise, an element of disguise now, where it's much tougher for other people to pick off whether a line move is happening. Like, for example, I'm a hockey bettor. Bet a lot on hockey. If a backup goalie is announced in a game and I want to bet it, I'm going to bet it. I'm not going to go fake that line the other way, because it's going to be very obvious to anyone who's following that the line is moving in the opposite direction. This makes absolutely no sense. Why would they be betting on the backup goalie? I'm going to just be stuck with a bad bet in that scenario. Let's say in this case, though, I think the backup goalie is maybe an upgrade or something, and market hasn't reacted to that in the past. That'd be an excellent time to fake it. So you're starting to see things just be a little bit smarter now, where it's not as easy for someone who's just sitting at a desk watching lines to be able to immediately pick it off.
Yeah. The best fakes are obviously, it's no surprise, but the best fakes are when you can actually trick some other professionals as well.
Exactly.
So if you can get some other people, like Rob's example here, you have a backup goalie starting. Backup's actually an upgrade over the quote unquote starter. So you bet the starter out, and everyone starts thinking like, wow, this starter's a huge move. This book just moved here. Starting goalie's out. We got to hammer this. They will now clean up the board for you, move everywhere else, and then you can now hammer back at a better price. So obviously that's like an ideal fake, is if you can, essentially fake out other professional bettors, not just the sports book. If you fake out other professional bettors, they're going to move the whole market for you, and you'll be able to play back significantly higher profit. So that's with less investment into the fake.
I think obviously this is not going to impact 99% of people or more, but I think it's an interesting topic because we get a lot of questions about it. It's come up in actually our Q&A, which we've been saving some questions for a while frequently. So it's worth going over. I just think, a lot of times I see this on my Twitter. I guess it could go into the tweets that trigger us at some point as well. But it's like, somebody's betting this game, they must know something. Somebody must know something about this. A lot of times that's just somebody manipulating the market. The timing doesn't make sense to you. Why would somebody be betting this on no news or whatever at like 3 p.m? Because they think that they could probably get away with it at that time. That's the reality of it. I'm not saying that's a guaranteed rule. There are no guaranteed rules of thumb. But the goal of manipulating the market, faking a line, is to be able to get down even more at a better price on the side that you like. That is the end goal. And for the vast majority of people, they're not betting enough to need to do this or to ever even consider doing it. It makes no sense. Why am I going to bet $8,000 at Pinnacle to move a line? Well, you're doing that if you can get, 150 on the other side at some point in the variety of accounts that you're betting at, whatever your entire market is. But for the average person, it makes no sense to do that. So I think that's pretty decent summary there. Still happens. I still see it. I can still spot them in sports I don't bet. The easiest ones to spot are baseball, because it's not often that you'll see, like, there's a kind of a dead period in the day of baseball, right? Think about the sport in general. Circles come off in the morning, which means that limits open up. Everyone's betting into market. The line kind of settles after an hour where people think it should be. There's no new information that's coming out between then and lineups coming out. But every now and then you'll see like 11 in the morning, 12 noon for the night game. Line starts to shift in one direction. And you're like, who's betting this now? Now, it could just be someone betting it now with enough money to move a line. But you pay attention to that stuff, right? You keep track of it, the timing of the bets. You start to see it happening over the course of many days. And somebody coming in on the other side, well, is probably manipulated in some way.
Yep, agreed. Because it's not even about necessarily the timing of the day. It's more just like picking up on patterns around. So you might be able to spot one fake one day, and then the next day you're like, oh, that happened last time, and then what happened was the line ended up moving the other way right after, and then like came in on this book. This book faked it twice, and then it moved the other way right after. And if you could pick up on stuff like that, you don't even necessarily need to like blow up the fake at that book. You just use the info to your advantage.
Well, that's the most frustrating part, I guess, of the manipulation, is when your fake gets blown up, meaning that you're trying to move market to get a bigger bet on the other side. Someone notices and they just immediately bet back the other side, where it's like, why don't you just get down like quietly as well? You know what I'm saying? That's the frustrating part. I think a lot of times it's out of spite, if I'm being completely honest, where somebody just says, I think I know who's moving this one way. I don't like them. I'm just going to bet the other side and mess up their market.
Happens.
Yes.
Okay, so that has been the first ever CirclesOff video episode.
Podcast?
No, let's not call it that. That's like, people call it like vlogs. Vlogs, okay, fine. I guess it's fine. But like a vodcast, I never even heard that before. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Never once heard of the vodcast. I'm more of an audio guy.
Maybe we're coining the vodcast then. It's a video podcast. What doesn't make sense about vodcast is what I don't understand.
You think Francesco Greco would come on an episode?
He would 100% come on. I don't know what we would talk to him about. He bets every single favorite in Serie A every single week.
Okay, we'll ask him why.
Yeah. His bet sizing is very interesting. Lots of $10 bets and then like $1,000 bet, which, by the way, I can confirm is actually the way he bets, which is even funnier.
That's how okay, well let's save it for when he comes on. We'll close off right now, but yeah, I'm down to have him on. I know
one day we'll have him in studio.
If he comes here. He's
been here before. I've met him.
Yeah, you've met him. I've never met him.
Yeah, me and a friend Todd went out to dinner with him once. Yeah, he's a normal dude, man. I don't know. I still have a fear that he might murder me in person one day. Like, this is like a long con. He came out to seem very normal, and he's like, Pizzola, come visit me in where is he from? I can't remember. He's gonna be so upset if he's listening to this, and I can't remember where he's from. Which part?
Is that one listening? And now
Savona. Come visit me in Savona. I have my guest house waiting for you. We remodeled it and whatever. I'm like, well, this is where I go to die, I think. But it'd be a real long con if that's what happened. Like,
what happened to you, Pizzola?
Okay. Anyways, we'll close it off there. Thanks to anyone who watched on YouTube. I'm not sure we're gonna get like a ton of views off the bat, but the audio's been great. Please, I guess the ask for this one is go to YouTube, subscribe, even if you don't want to watch on YouTube. If you support the podcast, if you support the podcast, then please, go to YouTube and support us and subscribe, like the video. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next week.